For more than a decade, the BGK family has been a champion of dreams. It's the dreams of those who work for a better tomorrow that drive us to reach our greatest potential. We are here to support our kingdom partners, their families, their ministries, and our communities.
Did you know that online streaming is becoming the most powerful means of reaching a broader audience? Even major networks are transitioning from cable television to online streaming platforms. BGK is a Christian online TV network that is ahead of the curve. We specialize in virtual broadcasting, allowing leaders to broadcast right from their homes while sitting in the comfort of their customized studios. And as if that wasn't enough, you can have our very own broadcast production for as low as $25 per week. Yes, I said it, $25 per week. Wouldn't you love to have your studio right in the comfort of your home? Well, call us at 877-386-6207 and become a broadcast partner with BGK Broadcast Network.
Hello, I am Evangelist Virginia Bowie, the host of the Cafe Freedom chat show that airs Mondays at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock p.m. If you have an inspiring, transformative word that you want to share, why not consider becoming a part of the BGK Network family? You'll be a blessing and you'll be blessed.
Hi, and welcome to the Ruhr Channel, Dinner Table Conversations by Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson. As always, I am so happy that you have joined us. We don't take it lightly that you take time to listen to our broadcasts. Listen, I just want to do some housekeeping before we get into this awesome woman of God that I'm going to be featuring today. If you are on the go, all I need you to do is just download our mobile app and you never have to miss a show. Just download it from any Google or Apple store. We also have a YouTube channel. So if you miss a show and you want to review it or there were some nuggets that you missed, you can just go to BGK Space TV and view any show. Also, you want to get in touch with me, you can call me at my toll-free number at 866-200-9850 or hit me up on my website at soniastinsonministries.com. And if you are interested in being a part and a partner with BGK, just reach out to our production team and they can share this wonderful news of getting your message all over the world. So now, let me bring in my guest today. Her name is Cindy Hatcher. And I just love this. Met this woman of God about 4 months ago, and we sort of have these kindred spirits. She has over 20 years of experience as a practice licensing professional counseling and licensed marriage and family therapist. She is out of Texas, and she is just an awesome woman of God. And there's so much content that I want to cover in our time together. And I just want her to tell my listening audience a little bit about her. How you doing, Cindy?
Oh, I'm so great. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Stinson.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself? I covered a little bit, but I know there's a whole
Sure.
lot more to you. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you. I often describe myself as a multi-passionate visionary. I've always got ideas and creative things. And so I have worn a lot of different hats. As you mentioned, I, for 20 years, was a marriage and family therapist and professional counselor. I specialized in trauma and eating disorders and relationship issues. And after that, really felt led to move into leadership coaching because I kept seeing, sadly, lots of leaders in the church as well as in the business world really struggling. And it can get really lonely on top. I was a director of different programs with at-risk youth and so forth. And it really was eye-opening to see leaders struggle and not really getting the kind of support, especially from a kingdom point of view, to know how to bring the kingdom to where they are in their business, in their workplace, whether they were upper level management or, in leadership in the church, even the struggles that you tend to have in the church world as well. And so I wanted to support leaders and leadership. And in fact, as I was praying through it, God, I believe, gave me the assignment, and that was to revive leadership. And so that's how the company was birthed. And I continue to press into what the fullness of all of that looks like. But I've launched a lot of courses, coaching groups, masterminds, and just recently launched my first retreat, as you know. And so it's been a whirlwind, but it's been really amazing because I get to work with amazing people and help support their work and what they do.
You mentioned something. You said you like to bring the kingdom to where they are. Oh, today we're going to talk about the 4 pillars of leadership. But that was in our personal conversation. You and I know that we are on many platforms, and it is difficult for individuals to understand that you are to bring your mantle, the kingdom, to wherever you are. Would you just backstep a little bit and tell us about that? And then you also talked about eating disorders in the kingdom. We're going to get to the 4 pillars, but I want to cover that first about how important it is that sometimes we think we can't bring kingdom to our workplace or kingdom to the doctor's office or kingdom to the community. How does that work for you, and how difficult, or was it difficult for you to begin to understand that that was your calling?
Well, it was difficult in the beginning because, you feel torn as an entrepreneur in the business world, and then you feel like that was supposed to be separate, the separate secular versus sacred. And then here's my role in the church, but then here's my role in the world. But honestly, that's a clashing of kingdoms. And so if we're fully kingdom minded, then we're ambassadors of Christ, but we're also a walking embassy. Everywhere we go, we're supposed to take territory for the King. Wow. And so how we represent him in the world is how we extend the Father's business, right? So I believe that when we're fully kingdom minded and kingdom hearted, or wholehearted, as I say, we're supposed to bring the kingdom everywhere. The word ministry actually means to administrate. So when we administrate the kingdom, we're doing it in everywhere with everyone because it's who we are as royal representatives of our King. It's the way we do business. We don't necessarily talk about Jesus in every conversation, but we're supposed to represent him in every conversation, and how we do business, and how we run our finances, and how we run our family, and how we impact the community. Like, what would it look like to bring heaven on earth in every realm of society? I believe that's been the commission of every child of God, and yet we haven't done that. We tend to separate the church and state instead of recognizing the kingdom is a principle that belongs everywhere, and they work. Even with non-believers, if they operate in kingdom principles, you're going to see really good fruit.
Wow. Now that is powerful. That's a book, okay? Because I haven't heard it really connected that way, but you truly connected on how we are as Christians, because I do think as entrepreneurs, um, without really real thought about it, that we may fear to bring it away because we say, "Oh, you're too Christian," and I don't want to hear, things like that. But just when you talk about kingdom on earth and how we are to be that example of kingdom in whatever atmosphere that we are. Some call it ministries and mantles, but I love that word of how you said we must learn to bring kingdom where we are. So wherever we are in our jobs, on whatever career we are, if we're Christians, that is such an important step. So you're going to hear that again, girlfriend. But you also talked about eating disorders. What was so interesting in eating disorders in the kingdom?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time working in nonprofit agencies and psychiatric hospitals and then in residential treatment centers. So one of my areas of specialty is working with those who've struggled with eating disorders, because we don't always see that as one of the addictions that a lot of people struggle with. And especially in the church. I mean, everybody's got a good potluck, but so we don't always recognize self-control in every situation is important. So for a number of years, I worked in a treatment center that specialized in helping people overcome eating disorders. And so that became one of the specialties that I help identify with people, because a lot of times you tend to think, oh, it's, we think drugs or alcohol or what do we call it,
Yes.
most common
Cigarettes or
addictions.
whatever. Right. Yes.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. But, health is a major key component of the things that we talk about in our leadership program. And to be able to be fit emotionally, mentally, physically, we also have to identify any place where we may have struggles or have, a God with a little G going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be able to remove that. So that was a season where I spent time in a treatment center. And then anytime I run across a leader who struggles with a variety of things, we look at every area of your life as a leader. And so that's one of those areas that pops up every now and then.
Wow. So I want to talk about one of your courses in leadership, and you talk about the four pillars of wholehearted leadership. Had never heard it that way. You identify four: identity, intimacy, wholeness of heart, and holy character. Let's try in our short time, we're not going to really dive into when you talk about these four pillars as a wholeheartedness, and you first began with identity. How do we as leaders become these wholehearted leaders to in defining our identity?
Right. So first, to be a wholehearted leader is to not have a divided heart, right? And the word says that a double-minded man, right, is not a good thing. So we want to be wholehearted. We want to be fully alive, fully present, firing on all cylinders, being and doing everything that God created us to be. So the first step, we've got to know who we are. And I'm not talking just a child of God, because everyone's a child of God, whether they know it or not. They just, and so to know their identity is also to recognize their motivational design gift. So out of Romans 12, there's a teaching I'm sure you're familiar with of just recognizing our wiring. A lot of people will do the DISC profile or the, variety of different Myers-Briggs or the different personality tests. Well, we don't just want to label, so I teach on the motivational design gifts to recognize our wiring and how God made us. That comes through our personality, but also we have to identify, for example, as an apostle or a prophet in the business world. If you're walking in a fivefold calling, if you, when you are able to rest in who you are and what your calling is. So many people don't really know. They don't really know their wiring or bent. In fact, I meet a lot of people who try hard to not do the things that are their natural gifting because they don't recognize there's a maturing process. So, for example, I have some people who are very mercy wired, which means they're the most loving, very compassionate, kind of like Heart of David kind of people, right? Or like John the Apostle, very loving, just want everyone to love, want everyone to get along. But in the negative or unredeemed way, sometimes they can overstep. Right, that's where they become really enmeshed or codependent in relationships, or they overdo things, or they let people take advantage of them, or they burn out by compassion fatigue. And so when we identify your gifting, that's to be embraced. I mean, if God wired you in that way, then that's a good thing, but we have to learn healthy boundaries. We have to be able to know our value and worth. And so we speak up when we need to speak up. And sometimes mercy wired people struggle with that. When working with, prophet wired people, not office gifting prophet, but perceivers, people who are black and white personalities. They can show up kind of very obviously like prophets, but it's a wiring or personality that's driven. They're visionaries, they're go-getters, they tend to be blunt. They don't mean to be rude, but they're just going right after things. And so they're the high performers that sometimes don't recognize their impact of their words or their communication style with their teens, and they damage relationships or favor with people that don't mean to. And so oftentimes we tend to back off on some of those things that have gotten us into trouble, right?
Oh,
but
wow.
but we don't hone in on that as a gift and say, wait, we just need to refine it, we need to mature it. So the first step is really knowing who you are and how God made you, where your zone of genius is, and the other part is where you need to hire somebody else who's going to be better at that. So, for example, I'm a visionary. So when I hired my personal assistant, I knew I needed a builder. I need a ruler, someone who is gifted in administration, who could keep up with all the details. If I'm a big picture person, I need someone to catch the details. So I intentionally interviewed people, ran them through my free quiz, so that I could identify what those gifts were in her naturally. She can't help but be an organizer. She can't help but make sure to catch all the details and do the task list. It comes natural to her. And so I wanted to find somebody who could partner with me in gifting, so we have synergy. I do what I'm really great at. She does what she's really great at. And she keeps up with all the stuff in my business world to keep me straight.
I love that, Cindy. Now, listen, we have a large listening audience. How do people get in touch with you? Because this is a wealth of information, and we've just gotten to one pillar. But how do people get in touch with you?
Followcindy.com is a link that will take you to one of the websites that I have that will give you links for every little thing that's going on, whether it's when a book gets published or a course gets published, when my retreat is active. It's got my general website on there. So followcindy.com is the best way to be able to reach me and all the things that I'm doing.
Awesome. So I love what you said about identity. First of all, we're listening to Dr. Sonia Stinson at Dinner Table Conversations on the Rural Channel, hosted by our partners, BGK. To get in touch with me, just call me at 866-200-9850, or you can contact me via my website. Cindy, one of the things, is it okay to call you Cindy? Because I know you're a
Yes.
prophet. Intimacy.
Yes.
How does that work? I know we're supposed to be intimate with God, but how does that work in our real world?
Yeah, so I believe, again, as a wholehearted leader, our intimacy with God is very important as we continue to grow in that personal relationship. But intimacy with others is another thing. So we need to be able to recognize healthy boundaries, where we can be authentic, where we're able to be vulnerable as leaders. There's a balance between a healthy boundary, what you share and what you don't share, of course, in the workplace. But at the same time, if you can't be authentic and vulnerable, how are people supposed to trust you as a leader? And so there are varying levels of intimacy that we need to recognize, like with our leadership team versus, the various degrees in your department, wherever it is that you're working. But we need to be able, intimacy, if you think about the word, means into me, you're able to see. So how much of me am I going to open up, but also that authenticity, relatability. And so we need to be able to have real relationships and work. It doesn't mean I talk about every things in my private life, but what it means is, can I be fully me? Can I be real? Can I really relate to people? Do I show that I care about them? So there are layers and levels to that where we want to monitor. Some people do too much. They share too much, or they spill over too much. Some people are very cold or disconnected, and your team doesn't trust you or doesn't really know you. Do they know the real you? And so to be wholehearted, you need to be able to recognize those boundaries and where they're healthy or unhealthy. And also, again, being the full version of you is I should be the same person everywhere. I just limit what I share.
So you said something very interesting, because with your team, although you're intimate and wholehearted, there's certain boundaries that you set depending on where you are with whatever team. And that's something that took me a while to learn. But a lot of times, being autistic to yourself, they don't understand sometimes where your boundaries come in, but they want to step over those boundaries. How do you handle that as a leader in the marketplace, in the workplace, in your career, in the church?
Right. Well, I think it varies person to person, okay, on some level. But the bottom line is can you be authentically you everywhere you go?
Mm-hmm.
You know, not everybody gets permission to have access to everything in my heart and in my personal life,
Wow.
but they get
Okay.
access to me because
Mm-hmm.
I care, because I'm concerned with the people around me, because I want to be an encourager, because I want to, you know, find the gold in people and call them up into their best self. As a leader, that's what we do. So if I can't really get to know even my people, the people that I'm serving, not just clients, but again, coworkers, you know, and so forth, it's really important for me to start with that first pillar of identity. And then from there, I flow into what do I share with people? What is
Mm-hmm.
appropriate or not appropriate? And those can have varying degrees depending on where you are. But am I the same me everywhere I go? Am I wearing
Okay.
masks
Oh,
or am I
wow.
being
Let's
authentically
stop there.
me?
Let's stop there. So a lot of people
Yeah.
wear masks, okay,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever protection. And we'll get to holy character, but a lot of people do wear masks. And I think that is they have one mask in the church, one mask in the community, one mask in the career.
Mm-hmm.
You teach that the mask you don't have to have three masks, but you still have to be true to yourself.
That's right.
Let's expound on that.
Yeah. So again, following when you know your identity, I don't have to wear masks. I can
Mm-hmm.
be authentically me. I'm just going
Mm-hmm.
to limit what you have access to. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, everybody's got like a fence or something around their heart, right? We have boundaries around various places in our heart, or just
Mm-hmm.
in practical nature. You know, you have a fence around your backyard. You know, you're not going to let everybody in
Mm-hmm.
your backyard. You're only going to invite those
Mm-hmm.
people you want to come to the barbecue or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and who you allow in. Not everybody can just walk into your backyard.
Exactly.
But if you want to invite the whole neighborhood and it's, you know, then you can. You're the one that gets to decide based on your boundary and
Mm-hmm.
where you are in that situation. You're still in control. You're the gatekeeper. You're still in control of that. However, when you are authentically you, you're not worried
Mm-hmm.
about what people see. You're not worried
Wow.
about it. You're authentically you. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
necessarily give you personal information or get
Mm-hmm.
you access to the deeper places of my emotional heart, but I'm still fully me. I'm not showing up
Mm-hmm.
fake. I'm not putting on masks because I'm free to be me. Listen, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
free of your opinion of me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm free of other people's opinion of me and free of my own opinion of me, that I'm really free because I'm
Mm-hmm.
confident in who I am. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
you get to have access to every place in my emotional part of my heart, or you don't get access to all of my personal life, but I'm still fully me. It's
Mm-hmm.
about you being
But
fully you. And that third
but
pillar
we
helps.
yes, the third pillar helps is this wholeheartedness, and then holy character. But and we need to get there. We have a few minutes, but I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. But a lot of people get offended because you do not give them. They have, like I am. People have limited access to me. They only know so
Yes.
much about me. No one, not everyone comes to my house. You may come
Right.
to the door, but I'm not going to let you in.
Right.
So I think that's something that we don't teach, both from a Christian kingdom standpoint and from a community standpoint. We have a few minutes, and I don't want to leave because I love the way you define holy character. Why is holy character so important in these four pillars of leadership?
Well, real quickly, that third pillar addresses what we were just talking about. To be
Okay.
wholehearted means to
Hmm.
address any inner healing. So this is
Okay.
the piece where I bring in the therapeutic hat or the inner healing piece of me. And that is, if there's wounding, if there's unresolved need, they may be
Oh,
legitimate. So
wow.
you've got people knocking on your door, Dr. Stinson, saying, will you mother me? Or will you mentor me? Or how can I get
Mm-hmm.
access to your life? Because they see something that they need or want in you. If you get offended, and this is just me being blunt, but if you can be offended, then you're not fully dead yet, you know. So
Right.
we
Right.
haven't really died to
Right.
ourselves or died
I,
to our own agenda. So there's wounding that's there. There may be a
right.
legitimate need, but it doesn't mean I'm the one that's going to meet that need. And so
Right.
what we want to do as a leader is to help them identify that not everybody does. I don't have time to answer every single message that comes on my phone through social media or whatever. I don't like, it's impossible, right, for some of that. But what we can do is try to provide avenues for people to recognize, hey, here's where you're struggling, and
Yes.
not everybody is going to be in your circle. And so we want to
Yes.
lovingly show them the way to heal their heart, to get free,
Yes.
so that they're not
Yes.
as needy, they're not offended. Because that's a
Yes.
goal in life, is to live unoffendable, right? So,
Yes.
then
Yes.
that walks us into the fourth pillar, because the fourth pillar is on holy character. That's character that's set apart, and this is the fruit of the Spirit that shows up in your life. And you can't grow the fruit of the Spirit just like, oh, I'm going to try to really, we can't struggle our way in there. It has to be something that's in the nature of who we are. So when you think about struggles in life, the Lord said this to me one time in prayer. He said, in a season where I was struggling, and he said, the fruit of the Spirit are grown in the soil of adversity.
Oh, wow.
The fruit of the Spirit is grown in the soil of adversity. So when we learn to persevere, right, Paul said suffering develops perseverance, which develops character, which develops hope. And hope does not disappoint, because hope is a happy certainty. I know that I know for sure, right? And so that character comes when we know how to persevere. We're going to go through trials, we're going to go through struggles, but how do we persevere? So as leaders, we want to develop holy character by recognizing we're like the tip of the spear, we're the plow, we're leaders are the ones who are the pioneers, the front line, leaders are the ones that are going to take most of the hits, okay?
Yes.
But
Yes.
but when we're leading in the kingdom, we're also like mothers and fathers raising up a bunch of children, and some of those children are very orphan-hearted. Because they were separated from the Father. Right. And so our point is to do what we can, right, to mother and father them into good character. And sometimes that means discipline. That means healthy boundaries. So it's the fruit that we display in our life. That's the character piece of leadership. So that's part of the test is, how are you naturally showing that fruit? So when I say that, an apple doesn't have to try really hard to make an apple. An apple tree, doesn't have to struggle to make an apple. But apple trees don't make oranges.
Right.
So you got to know what you're called to do and to make.
Wow. Cindy, this has been rich, and I know that my listening audience has enjoyed it. Again, would you let them know who you are and how to get in touch with you?
Yes, I'm Cindy Hatcher with Revive Leadership, Transformational Leadership Coach, and you can find me at followcindy.com.
I want to thank you for listening to our show today with Cindy Hatcher. She is a wonderful woman of God. Get in touch with her. I am Dr. Sonia Ricketts Stinson. I am the host of Dinner Table Conversation, hosted by our partners BGK. You can get in touch with me at 866-200-9850. My website, I'm on all social media platforms. Listen, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Matthew House comes from the scripture, Matthew 25 and 35. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was in prison and you came to visit me. That's how we developed Matthew House. 3 African American men who had the compassion and the love of people who are all veterans. My name is Dr. Sonia Ricketts Stinson, and I am the Executive Director and the CEO of Matthew House.
Right now we're in the common room, which is also named as the day room. This is where most of our clients eat during the daytime. This is where they can watch TV. This is where they can socialize.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Dickens. I work as a nurse practitioner and one of the providers at Heartland Alliance Health. So here, Heartland Alliance has a number of outreach sites around the city, so linkage agreements with certain sites where we take our typical outpatient clinic model and bring it in to specific outreach sites, Matthew House being one of them.
Where they can go and get their public entitlement benefits, or helping with a storage bid. supplying the blankets, or supplying the toiletries. Cleaning supplies is something we take for granted. Other things that we have to get done. There's building maintenance that we have to take care of. There's the supported service at the program staff who have to definitely be here from 12 hours a day in order that the individuals are not in the heat and they're not in the cold. So we need your help. We need your financial support.
We need volunteers. You can go to our website at MatthewHouseChicago.org. There's a donation button, but most of all, we need funds. We need all that we can get to fix this building because these people need a place to be.
And I'm glad I'm here, and I will continue to be here until I'm not here anymore.